The tools employed by malevolent forces, aiming at chosen believers of Christ, have frequently involved attacks from individuals within occult practices, including witches, warlocks, and demonic entities. As the veil between realms diminishes, more revelations surface, often stemming from supernatural encounters and experiences. My hope is that this video serves as an informative source, shedding light on these occurrences, enabling us to be vigilant and bolster our effectiveness in spiritual warfare. Let us remain steadfast in prayer, covering our loved ones, families, communities, cities, and nation.
Because if you go back in what we call ancient history, the ancients were doing sacrificial rituals to these gods, right? And they were sacrificing, particularly children. The reason for that.
There was actually one found recently, the Frozen Girl.
Yeah.
She was a sacrifice that 13,000 years old or whatever. I can't remember how long.
Yeah, but what they did was they, in those days, because it was acceptable, God knows why, they did it openly, right? And it was a sacrifice to the gods. And I'll come to this in a second, but my question was, so what do the frickin' gods get out of it then? Well, I now understand. And then I'm investigating these rich and famous billionaires of today who are players in this cult. And again and again and again, I'm led into Satanism and pedophilia. Those two are absolutely connected for reasons I explain in the books. And what are these bloody billionaires doing satanic ritual sacrifices to their version of the gods, right?
It's just like the owl god where we seen the footage that Alex Jones took.
Yeah, in Bohemian Grove.
Yeah, George Bush and all of them were there. Al Gore was there.
They're doing it to the same gods, right? They're same frickin' entities that the ancients were doing the sacrifices to and were terrified of. These people today are doing the sacrifices to in the cult. And I've talked to people all over the world over the decades. I've been doing this a long time. 34 years I've been doing it now, and they're coming up 34 years. And I've met Satanists and people that took part in rituals against their will who have told me of their experiences. And these are major players like the Royal Family, British Royal Family, Dutch Royal Family, all that stuff, all major players in this satanic ritual culture. And so then I asked that question I mentioned a few minutes ago. Oh, so what do the gods get out of it? I take you back to the first Matrix movie, and the Morpheus character holds up a battery, and he says, the Matrix is a computer-generated dream world designed to turn humans into one of these, a battery. And that's when a massive understanding started to come to me from many different sources, which I talk about in the books. These, quote, gods, these entities, are feeding off human energy, but it's a particular type of human energy. This is mainstream science. Again, every time we feel emotion, every time we think, we're generating frequencies. And those frequencies, in terms of what the frequencies are, relate to the nature of the emotion and the nature of the thought. And scientists have worked out what these frequencies are for different emotions, right? And
is that like when you go into a room and you kind of feel like, oh, there's a bad energy in here?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, if you go into an old house where there's been a lot of really bad things gone on, see, when the bad things are going on, the people involved in the bad things are giving off that vibe. And unless someone goes into that house and changes the frequency, they sit there vibrating. So you go into it and you think, oh, this is horrible, God, because you're picking the vibe up, right? So these are the energies I'm talking about. So these entities, by their very nature, are very low vibrational in nature, because anyone that wants to impose their will and manipulate and cause suffering and war and death and destruction is in a very low vibrational state. And if they're going to feed off human energy, they can only feed off it if we are delivering it within the band of frequency they can absorb. Because otherwise, if we were in a world of love and joy and happiness and peace, then we'd be giving off frequencies, yes, but much higher, more expanded frequencies, and they wouldn't be able to absorb them, like radio stations in the old analog system, sharing the same space but not interfering with each other because they're on different wavelengths. So we're living in a world, and again, it's about perceptual control, that is absolutely nothing like the one we appear to be experiencing. You have this demonic hierarchy, and then you have the human hierarchy, which is prime ministers and presidents and whatever, the king in this country. And that hierarchy is for public consumption. This hierarchy is the one that's calling the shots. The royal families are royal and consider themselves special bloodlines, the blue bloods, because they are vehicles for this demonic realm to enter our realm.
Is that why they only, like, even now, they're very picky with who they let in the family, right?
Yeah, apart from Jimmy Savile, of course, but he was serving them as they want, because there's a reason why why the vast numbers of them are pedophiles. And now what we have is a rump royal family. You've got Charles, and then you've got William, and his kids then are very, very young. You've got Prince Harry and his handler, Meghan Markle, who are firing missiles across the bloody Atlantic at the royal family and what have you.
I've got a question about him, actually, because you, in quite good detail, broke down the fate of Diana and that the likelihood is she was killed.
Yeah.
Do you think that the Prince Harry and Meghan situation has been brought about by him suspecting that his mother was murdered?
But I don't know. All I can say is that when you look at the evidence, if you don't realize it was a murder, in fact, a ritual murder in many ways, then you're not paying attention. I mean, it's so bloody obvious. I mean, you know, the symbolism. They love their symbolism. This cult. It's all about symbolism in so many ways. It's their language.
I remember once you kind of did a tour of London where you were pointing out how much satanic and royal symbolism are the same.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
they are. And if you look at the Diana thing, I mean, Diana was the ancient moon goddess, right? And
do you mean like that was the name actually of?
Yeah, the ancients used to worship Diana as a goddess, goddess of the moon, etc. And Pont Dalma Tunnel, where she died, is called the British translates as the bridge or passage of the moon goddess. I mean, these people they absolutely love the symbolism, and if you can start to understand the language of symbolism, you can see they're telling us. But of course, they know most people don't know this language of symbolism, but they're telling us. She was murdered for sure.
And even with the royal wear and the cloak and everything, like, and some of these big friggin' gold sticks where they've got emblems on them, you've pointed all of that out and brought it back to what it really means.
Yeah, well, you look, I mean, it's relatively topical. You look at the coronation of Prince Charles. I mean, it was all symbolism. It was all satanic, esoteric symbolism. I met a guy once whose mother was a psychic lady, and she was into all the esoteric. And he said, you know, my mother can predict the colors that the Queen Mother is going to wear any day because it's all according to the esoteric calendar.
What does esoteric mean?
Hidden.
Okay.
What's called the occult. Occult is just a word meaning hidden. It's that which is hidden.
Things such as like the checkered floors and stuff like that.
It's all symbolism, and it's all in some way interacting with energy to manipulate energy in a certain way. The satanic rituals are all the way they're conducted is to manipulate the energetic field. And what they do is do the same rituals in the same places over and over and over again. And what that does is it thins, because what these rituals are doing, like I said earlier, is they're interacting with these lower astral, quote, gods, demons, entities. And the more they do it in the same place, they thin out the dimensional difference at that point between our world and that world. And I've been described to me many times by Satanists how these entities in the major rituals slip through from their dimension into this one and appear in front of the Satanists.
Could that be almost like a vision, like, you know, how people have visions while meditating? A lot of people. Could that be on, or do you mean literally they appear physically?
Well, literally they appear, but they can't stay for long because there is a vibrational difference between what they're vibrating on and what this
sort of like a ghost
is vibrating on. But they can come in for a short time and then they leave.
My wife was saved in a meeting a few years after I was saved, and her title was Lady Diana. That was her witch name. She was the state high priestess. She ruled everything in the state of Ohio that was in witchcraft. She was also the witch queen of one of the denominational brotherhoods, the Watchers. On a scale in this country of maybe 1 to 25, she was probably the 10th most powerful witch in the United States to my salvation. And she has close to $50,000 on her head because she's come out, not because she's married me, just because she got saved.
Question, can you tell us about UFOs?
And my sister's connection, Jack Schick had told him first 3 years ago that I had told him. My sister, before my wife came around, used to be leader of the state of Ohio, the high priestess there, of the whole state. And her little pastime was calling up, supposedly filling the sky with UFOs and watching everybody's excitement. And some of the most outstanding sightings were in the early 70s in Ohio. And she used to laugh about it because she'd be standing in a circle out in the field somewhere calling up demons. And that's all they were angels of light playing games in the sky. Remember, a demon, get the little spooky picture. There are a fallen angel, an unclean spirit. They can assume any form or go into anything, except a Christian who walks in the Spirit all the time. Know any? Or in other words, a Christian who keeps it under the blood and so on. But they can assume forms, including spacemen or solid objects like flying saucers or so on. That's why when they appear on the radar scope and a jet gets up there, they vanish right in front of the pilot's eyes because they're nothing but a spirit.
I'm going to show you, except the second two pieces, could not be bought in a store until a few years ago. You stop and think about it when you started seeing this stuff. To buy these symbols here, you had to go to an occult store. Of course, that was easy for San Francisco. They've always been a little weird. But you go to the occult stores, but you had to prove that you were an initiated witch of a coven before they would sell this stuff to you, and it was made by their coven silversmith. The first one's called a pentacle. If you put a circle around it, it's called the pentagram. It's the symbol of witchcraft. And 1 point up is the symbol of witchcraft. 2 points up, like it's showing kind of there, it's the symbol of Satanist church, the symbol of the horn god. You might also notice it's also the symbol of the Eastern Star. We were in San Francisco last night, and in the building that the Illuminati houses the Rothschild's private enforcer, Isaac Bonowitz. He's like a living computer. He's also one of the members of the council that I led. In the store down below, which sells many pieces of occult jewelry, they sell ladies' compacts with Eastern stars embedded in them, with all the little runes and so on. This is called the hexagram, not the Star of David. The Star of David is a name change on it. David was dead and buried when that star was created by a son that had backslid and went into demonic worship. Solomon would seal his documents of war and his occult documents with that thing. They call it the Crest of Solomon or the hexagram. And that's where the word to hex or to cast an evil spell came from. Witches, when they conjure demons, they call the demons up to talk to them in person. This star must be drawn on the floor for the demon to arrive in, or it won't appear. Now that gives you an idea. It's the most evil sign in the occult world. This symbol in various forms means that you're an initiated witch of witchcraft. And if you'll watch television, well, I'm sure you do. If you watch television, you'll notice that many of the television stars are now wearing this symbol openly. Why not? Christians don't know what it means. You also notice it was a sign of the Shriners, too. This one up above is being sold. Oh, well, this one. Oh, well. Somehow, there we go. Maybe now. I don't think it's going to work. There we go. There, we got it worked out. The first one's called the Ankh. They call it the Cross of Life now. It's known in Christian bookstores and so on. The Cross of Life, or the Ankh, comes from Egypt. Means that you're a worshiper of Ra, the sun god. That's the Egyptian name for Lucifer. So it means that you worship Lucifer. It means that you despise virginity, that you're against virginity, that you practice orgies, and that you believe in reincarnation. That means that you don't believe in heaven or hell, that when you die you're going to come back again, and the Word of God is a lie because it says you'll live once and then judgment. But they say no. The next is the broken cross, the peace sign. Didn't originate in Frisco or London during the peace movement. It's been around a long time. We've heard a lot of cracks about it, you know, the footprint of American chicken and all this type of thing. This is what it is. When a person wants to become a member of witchcraft, and they come from a Christian background, I didn't have to take this initiation because I was born into witchcraft. They're given a cross made out of ceramic clay, you know, baked clay, and it's turned upside down, and they take the crossbars and they break it, forcing the crossbars down and break the crossbars off. And they throw the pieces to the floor and shatter it. And the priest or priestess, whoever's doing the initiation, then announces, you are free from the bondage of the Christian church. And because of this act, you shall have peace evermore. Thus, the peace sign. It's called the broken cross. This one you're not going to find until about a year from now. Anybody ever seen this symbol before? Everybody wants 666. You're right. 666. It's 3 overlapping sixes. So I've got
subliminal messages. If you look at the logo of the Republican Party, you know the elephant with the 3 stars across the top? Well, if you look at it today compared to 2 years ago, the stars have been inverted. The point used to be at the top 2 years ago. Now the point's at the bottom. Satanic, folks. I can't say for sure, but that's a subliminal message. Inverted stars.
Orchestrated by Freemasonry. Here's the founder of the Church of Satan again, Anton LaVey, showing the horn sign. The horned god of the witches, as illustrated by Una Woodruff in her book Witches. And here, with a member of the Agora sect of Hinduism partaking in a ritual of the oldest religion of the world, from the Bible. And this passage is thousands of years old. Woe to the worthless shepherd. His right arm shall be completely withered, and his right eye shall be utterly darkened. You need to slowly wake up now. Witchcraft is the royal art of Freemasonry, jealously guarded and reserved for the few. I'll show you clear as day that this is in fact true.
In the initiation in Freemasonry, we had to be recommended by another Mason. Well, in order to join witchcraft, you have to be first screened. You have to be recommended by somebody currently in witchcraft.
Well, when I was initiated, I was blindfolded and bound by a rope, and on your bare chest was thrust the point of a spear.
In witchcraft, we were initiated through a very involved ritual, initiation ceremony, wherein the candidate was led blindfolded, bound by a rope to the edge of the magic circle.
And the rope is around your neck and you're leaned forward. And up front, at the eastern end of the building, is a person who's a worshipful master. And you kneel down before him as if he were a god.
You were met by the high priest or high priestess at that time, usually with a sword to your chest.
When I went to enter the lodge, a sharp object was put to my left breast. And I was warned that should I reveal any of the secrets of Freemasonry, to know what to expect.
When you're presented before the high priest, a sword is held against your chest, and you actually take a blood oath, promising to remain faithful to the secrets of witchcraft.
Well, when you are in the room, this blindfold is taken away from you, and this is a time when they say that you're coming from darkness into light.
During the initiation ceremony, the initiate is led by the lieutenant of the high priest and is challenged at the edge of the circle by someone saying, "Who goes there?" And the answer is, "One from the world of darkness."
In Masonry, the prayers are ended with "So mote it be."
Oh, and one of the other aspects of, or distinctives of the craft was that we would always end any spell or ritual where we released the power, this is where the power was released, with the word "So mote it be."
By now this should sound like a stupid question, but why do you think that the initiation ceremonies into witchcraft are almost identical to that of Freemasonry? I'm not even going to answer that. Come on, people, wake up with me.
See, they confuse y'all. Witches don't look like this. They look like this. All churchy and all that. They make y'all think they go to the back and be shape-shifting, looking all long-nosed and wrinkled face and all that. No, they come to you looking good, fresh. Ever pay attention to the jewelry they wear? It all means something. Even if it look like this, they doing it for a reason. They be looking at you like this, smiling and all that, deep in your eyes and all that. Then they got this hanging from their neck. You didn't see it on their neck. Rewind. Let's get something straight. They come in all colors, all shapes, all sizes. King James did a good job on identifying witches. That's why I read this book, Demonology. I'm on part 10, argument 5. You got to check out part 9 to catch on. It says, "Then laying this ground, as I have said, these conjurations must have few or more in number of the person's conjurers, according to the quality of the circle and form of apparition." So depending on the amount of people and the quality of the circles that are created, that determines the apparition that appears. Two principal things cannot well that errand be wanted. He continues and says, "Holy water, whereby the devil mocks the papisties, and some present of living thing unto him. There are likewise certain seasons, days, hours, that they obscure in this purpose. These things being already in prepared circles are made triangular, quadrangular, round, double, or single, according to the form of apparition that they create." So they don't want holy water around. They don't want anything living that can be considered holy. As y'all know, they have traditional days, traditional hours, traditional seasons, and they have already prepared circles. Sometimes they're triangles, sometimes they're quadrangular or double or such to produce the apparition that they desire. He later on says, "As this far only I touch, that when they conjure spirit appears, which will not be while after many circumstances, long prayers, much muttering and murmuring of the conjurers, like a papist priest dispatching a haunting mass." So he's expressing how long it takes for that spirit to be conjured up. After long prayers and much muttering, he says, "How soon, I say, he appears. If they have missed one iota of all their rites, or if their feet once slide over the circle through terror of his fearful apparition, he pays himself at the time in his own hand of the due debt which they ought him. Basically saying once in the midst of this conjuration and one person sees the apparition or one person doesn't follow all the rites and messes up the circle or messes up the chant, that spirit that is getting conjured can come collect his debt however he want to. Y'all be thinking this stuff ain't real. It be 100% real, and King James was trying to tell you it is.
The scriptures, as outlined in 2 Corinthians 2:11 and Ephesians 6:12, shed light on the spiritual battle that believers face. The adversary, often manifesting through occult practices, witches, warlocks, and deceptive spirits, seeks to weaken the faith and resolve of those who follow Christ. As the veil between realms thins, unveiling hidden knowledge, it becomes paramount for believers to equip themselves with spiritual discernment and awareness. The Apostle Paul's guidance in Ephesians 6:12-18 emphasizes the necessity of spiritual armor. This armor includes truth, righteousness, the gospel of peace, faith, salvation, the word of God, and prayer. Each piece serves as defense against the schemes and attacks orchestrated by the forces of darkness. Moreover, Colossians 2:8 warns against being led astray by worldly philosophies and deceitful traditions that do not align with the teachings of Christ. This verse emphasizes the importance of discernment, urging believers to anchor themselves firmly in Christ's teachings to avoid being misled. Another critical aspect is understanding the deceptive nature of the enemy. 2 Corinthians 11:14-15 highlights how Satan can masquerade as an angel of light, and his agents may appear as ministers of righteousness. This deception aims to mislead and divert believers from the truth. Therefore, believers must be vigilant, not ignorant of the enemy's tactics. To combat these spiritual attacks effectively, it's essential to put on the armor of God, embrace truth, righteousness, peace, faith, salvation, the word of God, and prayer as spiritual weapons. Discern truth from deception. Stay rooted in the teachings of Christ, being cautious of ideologies that contradict his truth. Recognize deception. Be aware that the enemy often disguises himself and his agents as bearers of light and righteousness. Prayer and vigilance. Maintain a consistent prayer life, interceding for protection over loved ones, communities, and nations. Be watchful and persistent in prayer, supporting fellow believers in their spiritual journey. By arming themselves with spiritual discernment, truth, and prayer, believers can stand firm against the schemes of the enemy. With a clear understanding of the spiritual warfare and the tools provided by God, they can effectively navigate these challenges while remaining steadfast in their faith. This spiritual preparedness enables believers to counteract the enemy's devices and advance confidently in their journey with Christ, fortified against the subtleties of spiritual warfare.